Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. With my friends at yarnspirations.com. I want to show you a brim of a hat that can always be an alternative. When they have hats that they tell you to build the brim first, and then once it's done, you then put it into a circle and then you build out on top of the brim area right here. So a lot of them in the patterns, they are really quickly done, sometimes in the single crochet in the back loop, double crochet in the back loop to give it this texture, and sometimes they don't even bother. So here, this is called slip stitching in the back loop, and one of these will take you between 3 to 4 hours to make. And I know what you're thinking, God, that's a long time. It is a long time. I discovered this particular brim, and I'll show a photo on screen now. This hat that I did years ago, where the hat over the years still has maintained its stretchiness, and it's very, very elastic. And the other side, because I've used 2 different colors, looks like this. So you don't have to use 2 different colors. You can just do one like the original that it was. But when you use 2 colors, it's actually pretty cool. So when I go to look at these kind of hats, if this hat is specifically for me, then what I will want to do is do this kind of brim instead of what the pattern is suggesting. I will still maintain the length that it's going to suggest in the pattern if it's building out the brim. And then from there, it usually says equally space a certain amount of stitches around here. Now, one side here has the 2 colors being carried up together, so you can see that. So when you're going to crochet your first edge, you're going to want to go in and capture the color that is carrying over so that it gets stuck inside there so that you will not see the carried color. So you're just going to want to crochet that here. One of the cons of this particular stitch, there always has to be something, is that sometimes it's easy to lose the stitches. So I occasionally count. So I have chained 16 here, and I started slip stitching on the second chain. So in actual fact, there's 15 slip stitches across. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you now on camera is that you're going to want to do this. Now, I always like to switch down the crochet hook. So maybe if it suggested it was a 5mm, then maybe I would go down to a 4.5, and then you can always change the amount of chains that you go to start to get the height. So you can keep the same size hook that you want that is suggested as well in the pattern, but that's something that you can decide for yourself. So let me show you how this works. I'll show you how to change the color, and that's today's tutorial. So I'm just going to use some Red Heart Super Saver for this. So the type of yarn really doesn't matter for the elasticity, it's the stitch work itself. And I'm going to now chain 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14, 15, and 16. And I know what you're thinking, that's a really wide brim. But once you start slip stitching, it changes down. Look at the shrinkage on that. So you have to consider that. So you may have to just decide to try, and maybe if you want to adjust your heights. So for the color changing, what we have to do is that we have to just come back once, change our color, and then we go there and back, change color there and back. It's the first time. If you don't change it on the first time coming back through, what happens is that you end up with a section that looks like it's 3 and not just 2 and 2 and 2. So let's just go across. So now I'm going to go second chain from the hook, and I'm just going to slip stitch in the back loop only. And when you do this, you just have to get used to the motion. So you don't want to be overly tight, but you want to be intentional, if that makes any sense. Probably not. So just slip stitch yourself across the chain. Make sure that you grab all of the plies of yarn, because it does make a difference. So you want to take your time. So that taking up the 3 to 4 hours, you may not want to do that on all hats, but you may want to choose it on the hats that you love the most. And so I'm going to slip stitch across, and I'll be back in a moment. So I'm coming all the way across, and I'm coming into my very last one here. So I don't want to finish this stitch. I just want to go in, and I want to grab the next color that I want to play with. So if I'm going to change the color, if you're not going to change the color, just go right to the end. So I'm now going to grab another Red Heart Super Saver. I'm going to loop it. I'm not going to create a slip stitch, and I'll have to secure that later, and I will pull through. The trick to the slip stitching now is that you're just going to let the pink slide down and just leave it, and you're just going to use the blue, ignore the tail end. I want you to chain 1. In some patterns, they don't have you chain 1, and I always lose the count. So chain 1, it will just make your life easier. This is the first stitch you want to go into, noticing that I have not turned the project completely around. The very first one goes into the back loop only, so if you're looking at it from this perspective, it's here. But if you leave it to the side here, you can just dive on in on a side, and then just slip stitch. And it's just easier if you do that on the first one and then just kind of lean it towards you and just get the back loops only. So every few rows, I will intentionally count to make sure that I have the right stitch counts. And if you're noticing that it's starting to shrink on you, just count. And then if it's not changing the count, just give it a little tug and you'll notice that it will bring it back to the same size of everything else. So I'm going to go on the back loops only, slip stitching across, and I will see you at the end of the row in a moment. So I'm going to go all the way across, and the last one on this row looks different from the rest of them. So what I want to do is that I want to show you this blue one again in the future. So you're going to come into the last one here, and it's just in the back loop only, and slip stitch. To go back then, you're going to use this blue because this pink is resting on this side. So we just chain one, and again, don't turn all the way. Come into the back loop of the first stitch, just go in on the side, then turn and slip stitch across. So the endings of each of the rows look slightly different than what I just showed you, and I want to show you where that is because it's unique, and I will see you at the end of the row in a moment. Now, I want you to pay attention to these two strands that you see at the end. You just have to really focus on those, and you're only going to use one of the two. So depending on your tension, it can be a little bit of a nightmare if you're too tight. So this is the second last one, and this one right here is your last stitch. And so you're just going to go in, and because I want to change the color, I'm going to drop it. Don't let the yarn tangle, you don't need to, and just pull up the pink and finish that stitch. And now we want to go back down with the pink. Chain one first, dive into the back loop only, then you can turn and just slip stitch yourself down. And I'll see you at the end of the row in just a moment. So I'm coming near to the end, and my last one is right here. Do you see it? And because the yarn doesn't change till I get to the other side, you finish it. So you just pull through and through, chain one, and coming in. So you may have a tendency to want a single crochet. It'll be very obvious if you do it. So let's go back to the other side. I'll be right back in a moment. So I'm coming back to the other side. So you may notice that the next few rows is going to be more smaller than the original. You just got to tug on it. As long as your stitch counts hasn't changed, it's good. So your very last stitch is right here. And I do want to change to the blue. So I let the pink drop and grab my blue. And use the blue to finish. Okay, so make sure that, see how I'm just pulling up on the blue just to get rid of any slack. And so I'm going to chain one and move my way back. And then continue to go across. So you can see that the one side has perfect striping. Do you think you can use more than two colors? Absolutely. You're just on this side, just dragging the colors so you see that you're dragging. So when you go to be able to make the brim onto this, you're going to want to just capture that and go in so that the dragging of it is inside then the first round around. So I'm just going to go down to the end. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, coming to the other side. So this is the perfect side. So this would be the top of your eyebrows or eyebrow area. Nice and clean looking. The very last stitch is right here. Do you see it? It's right there. So on certain yarns, depending what it is, it's sometimes hard to see that. Chain one and then go back in the opposite direction. So this is something to consider for a type of brim, and the elasticity is amazing. The thickness that this creates is amazing, and this is one of the best brims I've ever seen in crochet so far in my career. So I'm going to go back to the other side in a moment. So I'm coming up to the very end. So you would want to finish on a color so that when you joined it, that the colors are going to be exactly aligned. So in my case, I would have to finish off with the green in order to have the segmented area. So I have some choices I can make. Once I'm done this, I'm going to fasten off this yarn, and I'm going to want to join with the sewing to be able to go, or I can just sandwich it together and on the inside of this just slip stitch my way up. Now I want to keep this edge here because this edge never changed any of the colors itself. I just went there and back. So this is the nice clean edge. This is the edge that I would want. You can make some decisions if you prefer even to fold this and then put your hook through the one section. So you want to capture the area plus the carried yarn and go through the other side. You can go around and single crochet around so that you would have a permanent fold in here. So in my case, I would want this to be bigger, like longer, and that's something that you can decide for yourself in case that you wanted to change up the story a little bit. So for myself, I wanted, for my elf hat that I'm making, I wanted a nice clean area. So you can see that this looks a little bit longer, so I just got to tug it. And once you start wearing this hat too, it'll naturally just work itself out, and it's just such a great alternative. So this is my favorite, basically, brim of all time for crochet hats, and I hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. Let me know in the comments on what you think.